Have you ever thought that sharing a Netflix password was completely harmless, until you glimpsed a continue watching list and realized those innocent late-night movie marathons weren't just you and your popcorn? That's what happened to me. One evening, I settled onto the couch, remote in hand, ready to watch my favorite true crime docuseries, only to find an unfamiliar profile squatting on my screen. David and Sarah. I'd never created that profile. Heart in my throat, I clicked it, and there, in glaring high definition, was the evidence. Subsequences of romantic drama, steamy love scenes, time-stamped at 2 a.m., bookmarked by two hearts intertwined in an icon. My partner, David, and I had shared the account for years. We split the monthly cost evenly, joked about who watched more, picked movies together on date night. But love scenes? With Sarah? Who the hell was Sarah? I froze as the recently watched thumbnails scrolled. The latest season of Bridgerton, partway through episode 3. The second chapter of Outlander, right at that bedchamber scene. A documentary about 1970s cult filmmakers with more on-screen smooches than facts. I stared at the screen, cold dread pooling in my stomach. I sank into the cushions and replayed the last few weeks. The sudden Saturday dips to the store, the late meeting texts, the distracted air when I suggested we watch a new sci-fi series. I'd brushed it off. Work stuff, he'd said. Now I questioned every moment. My pulse drummed, suspicion or heartbreak. Either way, I was about to rewrite my life. I remember pacing our tiny apartment, melon-scented candle flickering on the coffee table, when my phone buzzed. It was a group text, me, my best friend Lena, and our other friend Marco. I typed furiously. Guys, I think David's cheating. I found a Netflix profile called David and Sarah. They're watching all the love scenes. Lena's reply was almost immediate. Wait, what? And Marco, Sarah who? I tossed my hair out of my face. I don't know, I've never heard of her. I sent a screenshot of the thumbnails. They exploded in red text emojis, shocked faces, broken hearts, popcorn. But after the initial outrage, Lena messaged, "You need proof, don't accuse him yet." Marco answered, "Turn detective mode on." Detective mode. I hated the phrase, but the idea lodged in my mind like a sliver under skin. I would gather proof. I would know who this Sarah was, why she was in David's intimate lounge. And then, I didn't know. Confront him, break up, or something far more creative, turn this betrayal into art. I spent the next day as a private investigator on zero budget. I checked our shared email, no confirmation for an extra Netflix invite. I scoured the house for clues. An extra toothbrush in the bathroom, no. A lipstick stain on his t-shirt, caught and washed. His phone logs, screenshots of his device in his notifications, no Sarah in his contacts. Even the Netflix algorithm was coy. It recognized two signatures, but no names. Whoever Sarah was, they were ghosting right through our living room. That night, I confronted him. We stood in the kitchen, the light too bright, the air too quiet. Outside, car alarms went off, dogs barked. I clutched the remote like an unwilling weapon. "David, what's going on with the Netflix account?" I said. He brushed a crumb off his lip, blinked. "What do you mean?" Panic collapsed into indignation. "I mean this," I said, tapping on the screen. "David and Sarah." His face drained, confusion warping into guilt. He ran a hand through his hair. "Let me explain," he stammered, eyes flicking around for an escape hatch. "Sarah, she's a coworker. We've been reviewing video promos for Netflix originals." I felt the floor tilt. "Reviewing them? By watching the love scenes at 2 a.m. by yourself?" I hissed. "On my account?" He pressed his palms to the countertop. "We were comparing notes. For a pitch. She's the creative lead. They asked us to analyze romantic beats for a new holiday special. I blinked. The word pitch echoed. Then he said, "I didn't want to clutter your profile. I thought I was helping." My chest constricted. Betrayal's acid turning to doubt's haze. Was he lying? Or did his professional life truly blur into my Netflix queue? And if so, why didn't he respect the boundary enough to create a new account? The answer didn't matter. The damage was done. The next day, I would hand in my 2 weeks' notice and channel this emotional debris into something new, a docuseries exploring how betrayal unfolds in the digital age. That was my domain, after all, turning real lives into screen stories. The day after our kitchen confrontation, I wrote my resignation email. My boss, a thoughtful entrepreneur named Julia, had built the studio where I'd been a senior producer for 3 years. We churned out brand documentaries, corporate testimonials, and the occasional chef profile series. I told her I'd loved every project, but I needed to find my own story. I sent it at 10 a.m., the same time I sent a cold pitch to the streaming services. Subject, docuseries pitch, Netflix affairs in the digital era. Hello, development team. I'm Emma Delgado, senior producer with a track record of intimate character-driven content. I'd like to propose a 6-episode docuseries, tentatively titled Account Shared, examining relationship betrayal through the lens of streaming services and shared digital spaces. The launch point, my own story of discovering an unknown profile on my Netflix account and the journey that followed. Each episode will combine personal narrative, expert insight, and case studies of couples navigating fidelity in the age of login credentials. Sample episodes include Profiles and Alibis, Replay and Regret, and the Reset Button. I'd love to share a treatment and sample cut. Best, Emma Delgado. Then I set to work fleshing out my personal narrative. I wrote pages in my journal, reconstructing every conversation with David about our account. I transcribed our confrontation, his stammering defenses, my tears of fury, the way the overhead light turned his voice into a confession spotlight. I drafted interview questions I would ask other couples. Have you ever shared passwords? Did you ever snoop? How did you feel when your partner's profile logged onto your account in the middle of the night? I recorded voice memos on my phone, realistic-sounding intros, the hush of betrayal, the punch of revelation. Every audio clip would become an echo in the docuseries. Simultaneously, I reached out to a friend in PR who connected me with a psychologist specializing in digital privacy. That's episode 2. I told myself, hackable hearts. The emotional vulnerabilities opened up when your partner's viewing history matches a secret romance. I sketched interview outlines for tech experts, lawyers, Netflix insider interviews about login sharing policies. I saw stock footage of remote data centers, server racks humming, screens flickering with playback bars. I was building a multi-layered narrative, personal confession at the center, contextualized by societal and technological insight. By week's end, I had a 15-page treatment, sample rough edit with phone footage, and a 3-minute sizzle reel narrated by my own voice, equal parts heartbreak and determination. When I sent it to Netflix development, I felt that anxious punch in my gut. Would they see the story's universal power or dismiss it as mere tabloid fodder? While I waited for responses, life outside the digital draft carried on. I moved our shared couch out of the apartment, his final sign cheering me toward new beginnings. He returned a few times to retrieve a toothbrush or a sweater, each time apologizing with a nervous smile. I politely declined invites to talk things through. I refilled my schedule with creative meetings, wine tastings with Lena, and weekend workshops in docuseries writing. Each moment was a stitch in the tapestry of my newfound independence. Then the email arrived. From Netflix development. Subject, docuseries, pitch, Netflix affairs. In the digital era. Dear Miss Delgado, thank you for your submission. We are intrigued by account shared and would like to commission a pilot ready for viewing within 8 weeks. Please coordinate with our content team for next steps. Best regards, Sarah Kim, Director of Unscripted Series, Netflix. I stared at the message, heart jackhammering. The weight of that one line, commission a pilot, landed like fireworks in my chest. I did a little victory dance in my living room, scattering pages of treatment across the coffee table. I called Lena, voice trembling. I got the pilot commission, she screamed with me down the line. Then I collapsed on the couch, tears of relief and adrenaline blurring my vision. That night, I lay awake mapping out the weeks ahead, securing crew, scouting locations for interviews, a cozy psychologist's office, a Netflix tech campus, a stylish lawyer's boardroom, my own bedroom as the confession booth. I updated my deck, revised budget, timeline, shooting schedule, and a potential partners list including Adapt, Vox, and Variety as publicity allies. I texted Marco. Pilot greenlit. Let's start pre-prod, Mon. He replied, legendary. By Monday morning, the pilot was in motion. I met a DP, Armani, at my apartment, which I now called Stage 1. He lugged in lighting kits and boom mics, snapping into gear. The first shoot was my confessional, me sitting on the couch, holding my phone, narrating the moment I discovered the David and Sarah profile. Cut, Armani said after the best take, my voice quivering, eyes welling. We drank bottled water while the producer prepared the next shot. I glanced around my living room, bare couch, the Netflix screen wiped clean, my too serious sweatshirt folded on a chair. That sweatshirt would hang on a hook in the pilot, a relic of the moment before the world turned digital intimate. Next, we filmed my confrontation scene in a rented kitchen resembling mine. An actress in a red wig played Carla, an actor as David grasped a coffee mug. We shot multiple takes, once with more raw shouting, once with hushed accusation. In the editing room, I'd splice in my actual voiceover. I watched them frame by frame, rewinding that moment over and over. As the day wore on, we banged out the psychologist interview. Dr. Raj Patel, kind eyes behind rimless glasses, sat in his leather chair explaining Attachment Theory 2.0, where digital footprints become emotional landmines. He used the phrase logged out of trust and nailed it. Armani captured the nuance. Dr. Patel's hands moving as he spoke, the warm glow of his lamp. By dusk, I was heading to the Netflix campus for a tech interview. The guard waved me through glass doors as a drone camera crew hovered overhead. Inside, I met an engineer who'd worked on the profile management UI. He sketched flowcharts on a whiteboard. When two profiles log in from the same IP at 2 a.m., the algorithm flags potential account sharing anomalies. That nerdy lexicon, algorithmic betrayal thresholds, was pure gold for episode 3. When the account-shared pilot wrapped its final scene, me, sitting alone on my couch, whispering the punchline, I never knew my password would unlock my hardest truths. I felt a tremor of triumph. But nothing prepared me for part 2 of this story. The wild, messy, ecstatic journey from pilot greenlight to full-blown 6-episode docuseries, and the way David and Sarah would reappear on my screen, begging for their own spotlight. The edit bay, wrestling footage. Into a narrative post-production began in earnest the Monday after our pilot shoot. I walked into the small edit suite, a converted storage closet in a downtown studio, where Armani, my director of photography, and Celia, our editor, were already mining hours of footage. The pilot had 5 main interview threads: my raw confessional, the reenacted confrontation, the psychologist's insights, the Netflix engineer's tech anatomy, and a handful of real couple case studies we'd woven in. Armani greeted me with blearily enthusiastic eyes. "We got some gold today," he said, pointing to a frame where I paused, mid-tier, then stifled a laugh. Celia's dual screens glowed with timelines, waveforms flitting like restless birds. "We need a stronger hook at 2:15, she said. "Viewers will drop off right before Dr. Patel's attachment algorithms." I nodded, scribbling notes. Move Netflix, tech clip up, tighten audio bridge, add heartbeat transition. Over the next week, the three of us fought over pacing. Armani insisted the David and Sarah thumbnails appear as a quick montage at the top of each episode, repeating the betrayal moment. Celia feared overkill. "We don't want to beat them over the head," I mediated. "Let's tease it in the cold open. Beef up the Foley needling of the heart's thump when you see an unexpected name on your screen. Then let it echo thematically." Meanwhile, our legal team was digging into rights and releases. Because the recreation of the kitchen confrontation was one thing, but what about those case study couples? We needed signed waivers from 3 pairs who shared their own sneaky login tales. One partner changed their mind last minute. We had to partially reshoot to anonymize them. Another couple wanted more editing control over how their breakup looked. It took 3 phone calls with our producer, Marisol, and a midnight Zoom with our entertainment lawyer, Ava, to negotiate compassionate commentary clauses. By the end of week 2, we had a locked picture of the pilot, 22 minutes, tight, emotional, and weirdly funny. I slipped into the edit bay, heart pounding, and watched it start to finish. I heard my own voice, raw and brittle, and realized I'd transformed my darkest moment into a story that might help others. I quietly thanked the universe and hit export. Preview screening and early buzz. A small preview screening was scheduled for the following Friday at a co-working loft in Wynwood. We filled the room with friends, mentors, and a few Netflix execs who'd championed the project. Lena, my ride-or-die friend, arrived with a bucket of popcorn and 2 bottles of kombucha. "I've got front-row immunity," she declared, plopping into the seat next to me. We dimmed the lights. The pilot began with my furious discovery of the David and Sarah carousel, cut to the psychologist's measured tone. When digital spaces violate emotional boundaries, the trauma can be as real as any physical betrayal. Gasps rippled through the audience. Then came the Netflix tech demo, server racks glowing like sci-fi cores, and the engineer explaining login heuristics. A few IT folks in the room nodded in appreciation. Lena tapped her foot. "This is amazing," she whispered. "We're not just watching, it's teaching us." A hush fell as the dramatized kitchen confrontation played out, my voiceover slicing under the couple's shaky, "I promise it's work." The audience winced with me, leaning forward as though they could reach into the screen. And then, when the credits rolled, applause thundered. I climbed onto the tiny stage to say thank you, voice choked, and my heart leapt when 2 Netflix representatives, Sarah Kim and a senior VP, Jorge Menendez, approached. They both hugged me. "This is going to spark conversation," Sarah said. "We're greenlighting episodes 2 to 6. That night, my phone bleated with congratulatory texts. From colleagues, from strangers who'd seen a trailer tweet, even from a half-forgotten ex who wrote, "Wow, I'm sorry I laughed at seriousness before." I passed my phone to Lena. She cranked the volume and played a clip from the live stream. Account shared is trending. The David and Sarah interview. When confession becomes collaboration, the wildest twist came after episode 1 aired on Netflix's Coming Soon platform the following Tuesday. Our case study couples wrote us, some in gratitude, some in outrage, clamoring to be featured. But the real shocker was David. He emailed me. "Emma, I saw the pilot and sat through it in horror and understanding. My apologies were half-hearted in the kitchen. I want to tell my side. I want to be honest on screen." Sarah called. She's ready to talk too. "Do you want this interview?" I stared at the message, heart pounding. This was the moment of truth. Would I bring him into my story a second time? Would I frame him as antagonist, or allow his perspective? After 2 days of deliberation, I replied, "Yes, let's do it, but on my terms. You both need signed releases and counseling clauses. We record on neutral ground." We settled on a midweek afternoon shoot at my former studio's daytime lit boardroom. I hired a trauma-informed cinematographer, Naomi, and a counselor to mediate the session. David arrived first, looking vulnerable in a grey sweater. Sarah followed, her lilac glasses perched on her nose, expression apologetic. I sat them opposite each other, 3 chairs in a semicircle. The cameras rolled. I pressed record and dimmed the lights. Emma, off camera. "Thank you both for doing this." David, "I want you to know I regretted how it started, that I grew complacent, that I didn't respect our shared space." Sarah, I thought I was helping him with work, but I crossed a line. I never wanted to hurt you, Emma. Emma, voiceover, as tearful close-ups of all 3 fade in. We all have blind spots. Mine was trusting without boundaries. Hers was professional curiosity without permission. His was splitting the difference. We spent an hour unpacking motivations, speaking in measured tones, tears brimming as each apologized to the other. I guided them through emotional checkpoints, checking in. "How do you feel right now?" At the end, we closed with a handshake. The final shot, David and Sarah stepping off camera, embraced by silent gratitude. When I screened that interview to the crew, we sat in awed silence. I knew we'd transcended mere voyeurism. We had created a vulnerable, cathartic dialogue that would resonate far beyond our breakup. Post-production and the mix show, expert voices and human stories. While David and Sarah's interview became episode 2's climax, episodes 3 to 6 needed depth, variety, and momentum. We captured tech underbelly, a deeper dive with cybersecurity experts on how digital footprints can be traced, spliced with graphics of IP logs. Social justice, interviews with young activists who champion digital privacy as a civil right, juxtaposed with a couple who were criminally prosecuted for hacking into a spouse's account. Cultural lens, a cultural historian tracing the arc from shared vinyl records to family TV sets to password-protected streams, exploring how intimacy rituals have shifted. Healing and moving on. Story arcs of 3 couples who survived Netflix infidelity, one who recommitted after counseling, one who divorced but remained friends, and one who pivoted to therapy-led open communication. We interwove these narratives with my own final confessional, episode 6. I rewrote my betrayal into a voice for others. I reclaimed my narrative, not as a victim, but as a storyteller. The mix show was 240 minutes of tears, laughter, discipline, and closure. I watched the final rough cut in a screening room with Celia and Armani, tears sliding down my cheeks, realizing the arc we'd created, from private pain to collective understanding. The premiere, audience Q&A, and global reaction. The official Netflix premiere took place via live stream, hosted by Sarah Kim. She introduced the series to a global audience. Account shared premieres tonight. This is more than a docuseries. It's a conversation starter about privacy, trust, and love in a password-protected world. As the 6 episodes launched, social media erupted. #account shared trended worldwide. Viewers tweeted clips of Dr. Patel's attachment theory, David's apology, the climactic kitchen reenactment. Critics praised the series as innovative, raw, uncomfortably illuminating. I sat on my couch with Lena and Marco, watching reaction videos and reading testimonials. @TechLover98. I never thought about how my own profile could betray me. #account shared. @HeartHealerDoc. Best show on Netflix right now. An absolute must for couples therapy. Emma is a genius. Robin in LA. Watched EP3 on a plane. Triggered but important. Thanks for the insights, Emma. The finale live Q&A was scheduled for a week later. I prepared my notes, heart pounding. We invited David and Sarah back on stage, this time a virtual Zoom cameo. I moderated questions. Audience member. Emma, what surprised you most during production? Me. How willing people are to forgive, even themselves, when given a platform to speak truthfully. Audience member. David, what did you learn? David, on screen, voice thick. That trust is a shared password. You have to update it together, not solo. Audience member. Sarah, same question? Sarah. That professionalism has boundaries, and you need to ask if you're crossing them. We finished the hour with a group wave. Thousands tuned in, hearts raw on screen. I signed off. Thank you for watching, and remember, your account is not just a login. It's a living record of your shared journey. Guard it wisely. Epilogue. From shared accounts to shared purpose. 4 months after the premiere, Account Shared was renewed for a second season. This time, exploring digital betrayals in online dating, financial apps, and smart home devices. I flew to Berlin for a content summit, speaking on panels about narrative ethics in the streaming era. I consulted with major platforms on password sharing policies and privacy features. I even partnered with a couples therapy app to create a streaming relationship health check, a playful in-app tracker that nudges partners to review each other's profiles together, open book style. Personally, I moved out of that apartment with its ghostly Netflix remote and rented a sunlit loft where I host my own account-shared salons, inviting strangers to share digital betrayals over wine and curated playlists. I've begun dating again, someone who laughs at my seriousness and debates plot holes in sci-fi shows with equal passion. We watch Netflix together on his account. Sometimes I still check my account's continue watching line for familiar faces and smile when I only see my own profile. No unauthorized rom-coms, no hidden love scenes, just me, my choices, and the stories I want to share. Part 2 ends here, with the docuseries out in the world, streaming viewers grappling with their own betrayals, and me at the helm of a movement that began with a single innocent text and grew into global dialogue. Because in today's connected world, sharing an account can share your soul, and sometimes the best way to reclaim it is to broadcast your truth for everyone to see.